Hey, good morning, everyone. Let me fix my. I like this. Do I look tall? I like. I think I'm going to steal this step and take it with me everywhere. So, all right. First off, let's get us started here. Everybody that is here today, raise your hand. All right. Good. Good. Now, everybody that is not here today, don't raise your hand. Oh, there we go. Way in the back. You're not here. Good. So I have no idea why I said that, but I thought it'd get us started. So, and I want to thank you all for being here instead of going to snow day. So, all right. So I'm going to put this down here. Today, I'm going to once again talk about one of my favorite Buddhist subjects, interconnection or interdependence, or if we want to get really fancy, dependent arising. I just like saying dependent arising. It's like I'm on a pulpit, dependent arising. So we're going to do some fire and brimstone Buddhism today. No, we're not, I promise. But anyways, dependent arising, so all things are interconnected. All things are interconnected and arising in dependence of other things. That's according to the internet, which is always right. So, but I do feel that it is both a spiritual part of Buddhism and it's an important thing to keep in mind in our daily lives. So what deep, meaningful subject are we going to use to demonstrate interconnection today? Well, we could use just about anything, right? But today we're gonna talk about some different kind of sports, because I like sports. And I know that when you think about sports and athletes, you think about me, right? That kind of hurts. Well, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong here in a minute. But the truth is, I grew up in a big sports family. Lucky me. I never really fit in anywhere, obviously, but that's okay. I kind of like it that way. But football was a big part of my family life growing up. And I had a big brother who was tall, a natural athlete, good football player, and he was blonde, and somehow he was my brother. So I'm not sure how that happened, but we won't worry about that, will we? I have two cousins. I still have. They're both big guys. They were great football players, and we lived really close to each other. So it was pretty cool. On Sundays, we'd trade off spending time at each other's houses, and we'd spend the day watching football and eating all day long, and it was really cool. So I no longer follow football like I used to, but I still like it. I still watch it when it's on. You know, we just had the Super Bowl. But what I normally do during football season is when I leave here, I stop at In-N-Out Burger, because In-N-Out is what a hamburger is all about. And I get a burger and fries, and I go home and spend the rest of the day watching football. So that's my spiritual second half of Sunday during football, or during football season. Now, I had a small family to begin with, but now my mom, my dad, and my brother, and my aunt and my uncle, they're all gone. But by watching football is a way of keeping my connection with them and a reminder to be grateful for the time I had in my life growing up with them and watching sports and everything. And it's a reminder, too, that they'll always be part of me. Now, for the record, I did play football in junior high. Now, when I was growing up, junior high, we had junior high instead of middle school. You went to school grades 7, 8, and 9, and then you went to high school. Everything was much better in my day, by the way. So, thank you. I know some people agree with me on that. So I tried out for a football team. I kind of made it on because they took pretty much anybody who tried out. But even though I knew I would probably hardly ever get on the field, honestly, I didn't care. I knew it was my only chance to ever be on a football team. Now, to my father's credit, he sat me down, as he was wont to do, and he asked me if I was playing football because I thought he expected it of me or because I really wanted to do it. And as long as it was what I wanted to do, it was okay with him. So that was cool. But on the other hand, my father's ongoing joke with me was, well, they're going to have you play end, guard, and tackle. You will sit at the end of the bench, guard the water bucket, and tackle anybody who comes near it. So that joke was funny like the first 50 times he said it to me. after that, but that was my father. He loved saying the same jokes. That was cool. So all through all those years, I did Little League and football, I did track and tennis. And doing all that, I learned how to connect with others. I learned how to win with humbleness and humility, sort of. But the most important thing is, I think, and that you get from sports is you learn how to lose. And boy, did I learn how to lose. But what I was really learning was that things never really go the way you think it's going to go. And so you need to drop that attachment. Both winning and losing are impermanent, and there's always another game coming up. Now in high school, that was my time to shine. I became a wrestler. I was a high school wrestler. And no, I don't want to hear any remarks about, hey, did you hit people over the head with folding chairs? Yeah, thank you. That was never funny. I did real wrestling. So here, I'm going to prove it to you. So there I am, a high school wrestler. So I was 17 years old, and that was 45 years ago. So now I'm really depressed. So we're gonna get rid of that picture and put that one back up. So that's enough of that. So, anyways, but wrestling is the most physical and mentally demanding sport there is, no matter what hockey players tell you. It's just you and your opponent, nothing in between. You are at one with the moment and with yourself and your opponent. The interconnection is intense. Everything you do depends on what your opponent does, and everything your opponent does depends on what you do. In wrestling, it doesn't matter what the outcome is. No matter what the outcome is, in the end, what you do is you get up and you shake hands with your opponent. A lot of times, you'll see wrestlers giving each other a hug and showing some mutual love and respect for each other. And that's something you learn that you take with you the rest of your life. So now we're going to talk about a sport that I really excelled in, basketball. Okay, I lied about that, but I love basketball. So what I'm going to do, here, let's do this first. So there we go. So we've got a picture of Michael Jordan, probably the greatest player that ever lived. Don't tell LeBron I said that. And then, of course, there's Coach Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson coached for the Chicago Bulls with Michael, and then he came to our very own Lakers. He had 11 championships, 11 rings overall. That's like, nobody does that. So he was the best of the best. So now I'm going to read to you an article I found online called Phil Jackson, the Zen Master of NBA. And I know we're all Shin Masters, but we're gonna talk a little about Zen here. So, The Last Dance, ESPN's docuseries that chronicled Michael Jordan's last season with the Chicago Bulls, is fascinating, and one of the most impressive people is obviously Coach Phil Jackson, who seemed to have understood everything and everyone and handled difficult situations unbelievably and prudently as the Zen master of the NBA. His basketball acumen was influenced by Zen, of course. Former Sacramento Kings and Lakers coach Luke Walton, who's also the son of Bill Walton, who played for Jackson's Lakers from 2003 to 2011, happened to have a media day that coincided with the show. He mentioned that because he was influenced by Jackson during the COVID shutdown, Walton was encouraging his players to read books, listen to podcasts, and meditate. The team even had yoga sessions on Zoom. At first, I thought it was crazy, but as I got older, I embraced it. I grew to embrace it. I could see the benefits that it had, Walton said. There was so much that he understood about the game as a whole and how one thing affects the next, and momentum and staying calm and collective. For the most part, through competition, being an effective way of winning, and things that I continue to work on myself, and traits that I continue to pass on to players I coach. Now, Jackson was notorious for handing out books that were specifically tailored to his players. He found ways to connect well beyond the game on the floor, and his motivational techniques were legendary. Zen Master was much more than Jackson's nickname. According to Buddha and the Bulls in Tricycle, he is the son of a strict fundamentalist Pentecostal ministers. He studied religion alongside philosophy and psychology at the University of North Dakota and thought about entering the ministry, but he got drafted by the NBA, by the New York Knicks instead. He became a professional athlete. Then he was introduced to Buddhism in his 30s when he was having a difficult time as an NBA player. It was good to go through with the support and belief system and a form of meditation to come to grips with myself as a person. Jackson considers himself a Zen Christian. Do we have any Buddhist Christians here? Maybe. Hey, there we go, way in the back. Awesome. And I can see a couple of you kind of going, no. It's okay. I'm a little bit of a Zen Christian myself, or not a Zen Christian, a Buddhist Christian. My best friend is a Christian minister, and I hang out with him. It's just a cool way to go. So he was a Zen Christian. As his faith on fundamentals and Christianity, he leverages Zen to bring the now into it. In Zen meditation is what brings the now element into religious practice, and you achieve it by using your body, he continued. Sitting with a relaxed mind and soft focus on life is the thing that helped take some of the edge off my hard fundamentalist background. The Pentecostal teaching was judgmental, right and wrong, positive and negative, looking at life in dualities. Being a coach in the NBA, where professional sports are purely black and white, winning is everything, and your value is determined based on your ability to compete and win. Former Lakers coach Frank Vogel remembered how he developed his career. Vogel said, I was raised in the Bobby Knight era of coaching. So if you don't know who Bobby Knight was, that's a good thing. It's okay. So I see a few of you do. But Phil Jackson was different, Vogel continues. Phil never did that. I just felt like his approach, and I'm by no means a Zen guy, but the calm mental adjustment is something that I try to carry with any conflict or any adversity my team faces. One of the many things that I try to take with me from what Phil has taught, Luke Walton said, is training yourself and your players to always be able to stay level-headed throughout and not be too emotionally high or too emotionally low. It seems that Phil Jackson leveraged two very important concepts in Buddhism to thrive in the world of basketball: middle way and awareness. The middle way is one of the Buddhist main teachings that denies everything that is extreme, biased, or judgmental, which seems to be just about everything. Buddha taught that nothing was absolute, permanent, or 100% reliable in this universe, because things people saw, said, or defined were ultimately relative and subjective. Instead of trying to prove that you were on the right side, he encouraged people to stay away from any judgment and remained in the neutral middle way. And he perfectly mastered it. His lectures never cited on one theory or perspective, but still arrived in the truth that would convince and comfort people who were desperate to hear an answer. In Buddha's world, there is no black or white, no right or wrong, hence no win or lose. But things made sense at a profound level. The concept of middle way gave a whole new perspective to Jackson, who was struggling in a world of strict dualities, right and wrong in Christianity and win or lose in sports. And maybe that's how he embraced Dennis Rodman. I was going to put up a picture of Dennis Rodman, and I thought, maybe not. So instead of avoiding judging him, whether his behaviors were right or wrong, Jackson accepted Rodman's complex personality as is and focused on finding the middle ground that was best for the entire team. Then there is awareness, which is a purpose of meditation. Now, during meditation, you loosen your concentration to a moderate level so that you can avoid focusing on any particular thoughts, sights, or parts of your body. That's the state Jackson calls soft. It has nothing to do with the lack of grit in basketball, as basketball players use it. When you're able to loosen your concentration at the right level and sustain it, all parts of your body becomes moderately relaxed, neutralized, and vacated. Then you start seeing the truth that you couldn't notice when your body and mind was preoccupied. Jackson let his players try meditation, but not everyone arrived at that level. However, the most serene person he has ever seen was Michael Jordan. According to Jackson, Jordan had a great sense of awareness. He loved the feeling of being calm in the midst of storm of activity. He liked to have that feeling every waking hour. Jackson maintained the impacts on the court was significant when he could get a couple of players to achieve that kind of calmness during the game. Okay, we made it. So, just lastly here, so as you can see, we can find Buddhism everywhere, and we can find Buddhism anywhere. It sounds like Dr. Seuss, but it's true. As we learn our Dharma lessons, we can continue to adapt them and use them in our daily lives. The Buddha said, "Do not believe what I say." The Buddha said, "Do not believe in what I say," meaning put them into practice and see what works for you. Keep what works for you and throw out what doesn't work. Luke Walton didn't like Phil Jackson's ideas at first, but as he saw the ideas put into practice, he realized their value and encouraged others to do the same. Phil Jackson did not expect everyone to go along with what he was teaching and was willing to try different ways with each individual, which is what the Buddha did. As we continue to learn the Dharma and put it into everything we do, I think we can become more successful, if not in our vocations, but in our lives in general, and at least be a bit happier, or at least 10% happier, right, Reverend John? Yeah. We can accept our defeat with realization that we have a lot more life to live, and there's not just one thing that defines us. We will always have a big journey ahead of us. Please join me in Gasho. Namo Mela Buddha. Namo Buddha. Namo Buddha.